righty, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media and also by Filthy Games Room. Buy, sell, and trade in St. Charles, Missouri. I am the maestro, Jeremy Karp. It is May 29th, 2024. It was a hot and humid May 29th. And I will say, though, we got a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. Want to start it off quickly by saying that congratulations to the Cardinals, who won yet another series. They are now 12-2 in their last 14 games. They have somehow made it all the way back to 500. And I definitely, it's surprising, it's amazing, and I'm just so happy for them. But there is a lot we have to talk about, so allow me to bring on the two gentlemen that will be joining me this evening. First, I want to bring on Bob Underwood. He is a member of the committee for the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, and most famously on social media and in the St. Louis area, he does a fantastic and phenomenal job of keeping the memory of the St. Louis football Cardinals alive. So first, I want to welcome Bob Underwood to the stage here on Roundabout Sports.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
Hey, my pleasure, Bob. How are you?
Very good.
Awesome. I'm very honored to have you on this week. It's just a great pleasure. I know, like you said, we have been talking about doing this for a couple years now.
Yep.
And I also want to welcome our other guest for this week's show. And he is a 30-plus year veteran of radio and broadcasting. He is the co-host of the Morning After Show at Hubbard Radio in St. Louis, Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Kenny Strode.
What's up, guys? Bob, Jeremy, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, buddy. How are you doing?
Good. Nice, beautiful night. Just sitting out on the patio. Hopefully the birds aren't bothering you.
No, not at all. Honestly, it's just one of those nights. It's great. Weather's nice. We
Just
all
gotta
got.
watch out for the cicadas.
We have
Right.
no cicadas. We have no cicadas in my apartment complex. I have no clue why. They're all over Maryland Heights, but my complex, I've not seen one cicada or heard a cicada.
I mean, I'll take that, because we've had out in Chesterfield, there was beyond belief the amount of cicadas that were running rampant.
A lot of other shit around here, but no cicadas.
Right. I do want to do a quick plug for my friend Ed Wheatley. He has a book out, St. Louis Sports Memories. That is forgotten teams and moments from America's best sports town. All retail stores are selling it. Be sure to pick up your copy. And also, behind me, I know I don't have it in front of me, but it's behind me. It's written by Dr. Jeremy Housewright, for the love of the show. Pro wrestling fans, by pro wrestling fans, tell their stories of their experiences. So be sure to check out that book. It's on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble as well. So first thing I want to talk about, gentlemen, just flashback to the beginning of this month. It's not even like flashback to last year or something. Flashback to the beginning of this month. And we all were calling for Ollie's head. We were all calling for Moselak's head. Quite frankly, we wanted the entire Cardinals organization to restructure. I'm not going to act like I didn't. Then something kicked them in the ass, and here we are, as we're in the last few days of May, and the Cardinals are now 27-27. They're in third place in the division. They are 12-2 in the last 14 games. Kenny, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on what's been going on lately?
Well, you knew they were going to hit eventually. I mean, they have too many good bats in this order that aren't going to hit. I think Mason Wynn's hitting better than we thought we would. He was probably the guy we were most worried about. But, Goldschmidt's starting to hit, Karp getting out of it, Arenado getting out of it a little bit. I see Gorman starting to get some pop. And the pitching is the pitching that we thought was, other than Sonny Gray, adding a couple guys that are close to 40, we thought, what are they doing? They've been pretty good. I mean, the guy who's really sucked the most is Michaelis. But the other three that Mosela got have been pretty good. I just go back to the game where Ollie pretty much said, I got thrown out of the game on purpose. I wanted to, give these guys a kick in the ass. I wasn't happy with the strike call, but I wanted to get kicked out, and that's what happened. It seems like they played their best baseball of the year since he got kicked out of that game. I was one of those guys on the show. I was calling for Ali to get fired until somebody, a listener, called in and made a bet with me, said that Marmol would be fired by June 1st. I said, well, I'll take that bet. I made the bet basically not because I thought they're going to play better, but I thought that there's no way. They got to save face. You sign him to a 2-year extension. You're not going to fire the guy by June 1st. So I started rooting for him because I wanted to win the bet. But I just think the bats are coming alive, and I think the pitching is better than they thought it would be, and the bullpen's been outstanding.
Bob, what about you?
Yeah, I think Kenny hit it on the head. The offense, they started hitting. I think the pitching's been pretty good all year. Helsley's been great. Goldschmidt sort of back on track. Arenado, it was kind of concerning yesterday when he listening to his quotes about how the slump he was in, and he was hoping he didn't lose it. He didn't think he was losing it, and then he goes out and hits a home run. So that's really what it's about. I had lunch with a few people earlier today, and it's kind of interesting the moves that Mozeliak did make. Now, I don't know if they made enough moves. They didn't get a number 5 starter, but the 3 pitchers they brought in, you can't really complain about those guys. Gibson's been fantastic, and Sonny Gray is definitely an ace. I think they need one more though.
Yeah, I will say, it's surprising because there was a lot of criticism heading into the season about, aside from Sonny Gray, it was the age of the rotation that really saw the brunt of the criticism. Gibson's 36, Lynn is pushing 38. Even Michaelis 35, Matz is probably the youngest, if not second youngest in the rotation. There was a lot of question marks. Gibson and Lynn have done very well. I agree to the point about Michaelis probably being the most inconsistent. I'm giving Matz the exception just because he's injured. So I guess in that regard, you could say even Matz. But as far as guys who are healthy and constantly in the rotation, it's definitely Miles Michaelis. He's the odd man out. And let's give a big shout out to Andre Palante today. Palante just got called back up to the big league roster a few days ago. And even Ali said, quote, Palante did a very nice job to go down and became a starter and work on some of the things he wanted to work on, including the 2-seamer. He went 6 innings, just 3 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and no earned runs. The most important stat of all, no earned runs by the young right-hander. And it was a breath of fresh air to see. This team, and guys, you tell me what you think on this, but the team just looks more alive.
Well, when you're winning and you're hitting the ball, it looks that way. When you're losing, it just looks like you don't care. But they go into games now and knowing they got a chance to win. Earlier in the year they thought, how are we going to lose this game? I'm still a little alarmed at their defense lately. They've given up so many unearned runs in the last 12 games that they've won. They've given up a lot of unearned runs. So, and that's usually a strong point for this team. I'm with Bob though. They need another pitcher. They gave Liberatore his chance and he just sucked. It's a good thing Palante went out and pitched good today, because I don't know where else they go for a 5th starter in the whether it be Memphis or Springfield, or hell, they're not going to bring anybody up from Springfield. The thing that baffles me, and we talked about it on the show, and I think Doug Vaughn had a point, that the commissioner must have sent a letter to every baseball team and said, do not sign Trevor Bauer. How this guy is down in Mexico with an ERA around 2, is not losing games. His velocity is there, and no team could use a Trevor Bauer who said he would play for the league minimum. You telling me you can't use a guy like that? There has to be something to him being blackballed, because I don't understand how he's not back in the majors yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to find out more about the Cardinals over the next week or so, because they have to play in Philadelphia starting Friday for 3 games against 3 of the Phillies' top pitchers. And then I think they play Houston after that, who's kind of like the Cardinals. They got off to a slow start, and now they've won like 13 out of 18 or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see how they do against the better competition.
Yeah, Cardinals got Philly, then Houston. They got a good 4-game series against Colorado at home. Then once again, you get into a couple key divisional series against the Pirates and the Cubs. And Cole, once again, and folks, be sure to send in your comments, whether it be questions or just comments in general. We've already had a lot of fans tuning in. Thank you all so much. Cole asked if Chris Archer is still available. And, well, the thing of it is, technically he's a free agent. He hasn't pitched since, I mean, I don't even know if he officially filed his retirement papers, but I do know he hasn't pitched since 2022. And last year he took a job with the Dodgers, as an assistant in there.
Yeah, he's done. He's not pitching anymore. That's probably a joke because for like 5 years in a row I kept harping for the Cardinals to sign Chris Archer. I just liked him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he didn't. He stuck for those last 4 years, but he had some good years, and I wanted him on the Cardinals, and became a running joke.
Well, Eddie, who's always a frequent listener, tuning in, saying that he thinks the Cardinals take 4 out of the next 6 games. I think if you get 4 out of the next 6 from Houston and Philly, you get 2. If you win the series against Philly, that's a huge statement.
I think if you split those 6 games. You split those 6 games, I think, is a victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too. I mean, Houston is not the juggernaut they have been in the past few years, but nevertheless, Houston is still a dangerous team. And I mean, like I said, guys, we aren't even at the All-Star break yet. So, it's any given ball game, any given day when something can change. So,
well, I was a little surprised. I don't know why they don't do it, but with all the rainouts they had, they didn't skip the 5th spot in the rotation. I mean, I don't know why they didn't, especially the one where they used Liberatore as the 5th starter. They had a rainout and a day off. You could have skipped guys in the rotation and just skipped the 5th starter, and they kept putting them out there.
Right. And if I remember correctly, I mean, you look at the ERA of Liberatore, Matz, and Thompson when they were in that 5th starter spot, and it averaged over 5. It averaged definitely over 5.65, but I want to say it was even over 6. And Eddie Newt is still dealing with some injuries, but he has been back into the lineup. He went, I believe, 1 for 5 yesterday. He did not do too hot. And Ian sending in, he goes, "Are there pitchers that pitch with both arms?" Shoot. I don't know, but we could use them.
So
I have heard of switch pitchers, believe it or not. I know of switch hitters, but I believe I've actually heard of switch pitchers that do work on trying to throw with both their right and their left arms.
I've never seen one in the major leagues.
Never seen one in the majors, though, and God forbid what will happen in baseball if they do.
Now Abbott pitched with one arm.
Yeah, Abbott did pitch with one arm, and he got a no-hitter out of it.
He threw a no-hitter, which may be one of the greatest feats in baseball, a guy with one arm threw a no-hitter.
Yeah, I do think that is an absolutely fantastic feat. So I want to continue the baseball talk for just a second because this was some breaking news that came out earlier today. And so Major League Baseball announced today that the statistics of more than 2,300 Negro League players from 1920 to 1948 will now be added into their record books because it's now available into an online database that they fully integrated. And MLB said in a statement, quote, "Today's announcement's the first major step that makes the achievements of the players of the Negro Leagues available to fans via historical record." So what happened is basically it was a 4-year process to research every possible recorded stat for the Negro Leagues. And 35 of its stars now that are in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But there were 7 sub-leagues that made up the entire conglomerate known as the Negro Leagues. I think with everything, just the most notable result of these additions is the fact that now the late Josh Gibson, he is the all-time baseball leader in batting average in a career. In a single season, he's the single season leader and career leader in slugging percentage, and the single season and career leader in on-base plus slugging percentage. His 372 average surpasses Ty Cobb's 367, and his 718 slugging takes over Babe Ruth's 690. Sean Gibson, his great-grandson, actually told NPR today that, quote, Josh was known for his home run greatness, but this shows he was not only a great hitter, but an all-around great player. So, first thing, and Bob, I'm going to kick it off with you. What are your thoughts on MLB integrating the statistics from the Negro Leagues?
This was news to me. I'm kind of reading it on my other monitor, but I don't have a problem with it as long as they've been able to verify the statistics and things like that. I don't know enough about this research, but it looks like they did research for 4 years. I think it's great. And Josh Gibson, I don't know if he was still playing when he died at the age of 35. So I don't know if he was still playing at that time or if he could have still played more years. I don't know the entire story on him, but I think it's great news.
Kenny?
I think it's great that they should be recognized. They dropped the ball when they that year when I think they put 15 or 16 of the Negro League players in the Hall of Fame and left Buck O'Neil out. And then Buck O'Neil died the next year and they put him in. It's embarrassing, the Hall of Fame. But I don't know how they're verifying all of these statistics. I didn't even know they had, on base plus slugging plus, whatever in that era. I know Josh Gibson, people say he's hit 800 home runs. They say he hit 136 or something like that as far as his stats. I mean, I don't even know when they kept stats in that era and where they came up with the stats. If the stats are legitimate and they have stats for all of these and they can come up with them, great. I just think the problem you're going to have is people are going to say, how can you verify these stats when they didn't keep a lot of stats?
So, digging deep into this, basically what had happened is the MLB has said in the past and recently that available records from the Negro Leagues from 1920 to 1948, so just in that window, they're just shy of 75% complete. So it's almost kind of like when you look at the silent films from the silent film era, how many of them got lost? Well, the Negro League sets are not going to be 100% complete ever, but they're at around 75% complete, and they're basing it off of that algorithm of what they have available in order to because they kept their own records separately because they always felt they were like the major leagues as well, deservedly so. So, and I mentioned this at the top of the hour before the show that they did have, I've seen encyclopedias with stats, and we're talking a book about this big, released for specifically Negro League statistics in every category with every player that was documented as playing at least one game. So, and this did take about 4 years of research for them to finally decide, hey, we're at that point we can start putting these statistics in there. And yeah, it's absolutely long overdue. Once again, what's going to happen though, look, you already got people that are upset over records as it is, most notably the home run king. Well, Barry Bonds has the record. whether for better or for worse. Now I know that the legend is that Josh Gibson hit over 800 home runs. That is what, people who saw him play, who, and people close to him said. But records, the Negro League officially counts 166 home runs. Major League Baseball adds to that, believe it or not, and they add 174. So we're always going to have detractors. We're always going to have people against these stats to an extent, but I do think this is something that's long overdue.
I agree with you. I mean, some of the best players in baseball were the Negro League players that weren't allowed to play. I mean, I was fortunate enough to spend an hour with Buck O'Neill one afternoon. We had lunch. He was in town. We talked. He said Josh Gibson was the best player he'd ever seen in his life. And that's talking about people in the major leagues at that time. Josh Gibson was the best player he'd ever seen. If Josh Gibson would have played in the major leagues, he'd have been a first-time Hall of Famer. He'd have probably hit 700 home runs and been a 15-time All-Star or probably a 10-time Gold Glover. We didn't get to see these guys. So it's long overdue. But you're right. There are going to be detractors that say you're making half of these stats up using algorithms to complete the rest of the stats. And those are going to be the people that are going to complain. I mean, I really don't care. I think they should be in just for what they did in their league, stats or no stats. That's why they put 13, 15 of them in the Hall of Fame when they had that one election where they put 15 in. And then I think they continue to put them in just from their Negro League play. So I have no problem with it. But there are people that are stat nerds, and they're going to just dissect these all they can.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can totally see it. Well, gentlemen, so next up, first, I have to say thank you for those that are tuning in so far. You are tuning into Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, and by Filthy Games Room, located off Newtown Boulevard in St. Charles, Missouri. We'll be getting into a little bit more about Filthy Games Room in just a few minutes. First thing I have to say, though, is, Bob, I'm going to direct this one to you. You are a member of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame Committee. Am I correct?
That's right. Yep.
How does it feel, first of all, being a part of such a prestigious group?
So I've been a selection committee member for a couple of years, and the Hall of Fame was founded in 2009 by someone who I'm sure both of you know, Greg Marisek, the late Greg Marisek. And
Greg hired me in 1998 to work at the KFNS.
Yeah. And so Greg, or the Hall of Fame, so the mission of the Hall of Fame is to celebrate sports history in St. Louis, right? So, and we know we have a lot of sports history. We also want to preserve that history. And like I said, we've only been around 15 years. We do have some backlogs and things like that. We haven't been around as long as the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. But one of the, and we're very similar to pro sports Hall of Fames. We vote, at least since I've been around. We have nominees from different categories. We vote. The people who have the most votes move on to the next category or the next round until we get our 10 inductees. We have 2 events per year. We induct our inductees. The next one is September 5th, and we actually just had a vote, our final vote a couple of weeks ago, where we determined the last 10 or the top 10 vote getters. So I can't reveal any of those other than one, and it's Randy Carricker, someone that both of you know. Randy, I think he's been in the sports media for 40 years or so. And on top of that, I can't remember a St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame event where Randy hasn't come out and participated. We do our Hall of Fame a little bit differently. Our inductees, they don't go up and give speeches, for 5 or 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Or otherwise, we'd be there all night. So we have a member of the media interview them on the stage. Yep. Andy comes out and does 2 or 3 interviews at each one of our ceremonies. So it's a well-deserved honor, I think, and a long time coming as well.
So I will say I believe it was the year that when Mark Burley was inducted. Yeah, it was the year Mark Burley was inducted that I was at the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I saw Randy Carricker there. Had a nice chat with him. Saw Frank Cusimano, Art Holiday, Renee Knott, like a lot of great St. Louis sports figures, both of the media and athletes. And yeah, I love the format and I understand it because I do get why they don't have the typical Hall of Fame format, but that also gives it its uniqueness.
I think it's a little more personable,
Right.
We get to ask questions that you get to see their personality a little bit more when they answer these questions. So I think it's a format that works, and it's not anything we're going to change. So
I love
you should.
Dominic's comment here. Dominic says, "Is this more prestigious than the Brentwood High School Hall of Fame?"
Yeah, probably. I'm in the Brentwood High School Hall of Fame. I'm in the USBC St. Louis Bowling Hall of Fame. I'm guessing I'll be in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame eventually, Bob.
Somebody
except you guys. I'm sure there's a backlog of media people waiting to get in. But Randy's a good choice. I see Randy every morning. He does the show right down the hall from us. I see him every morning. Great guy. Loves St. Louis sports. Loves St. Louis. Loves the city. And he's just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. So that's a great induction on your guys' part.
Yep.
Big congratulations.
Yeah, play that. We'll play that and send it to his show tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I do got a comment here sent in by Dustin that quote, this Cardinals run is getting so hot, I'm starting to become physically attracted to my wife's father.
Oh, your wife's father, Bill, I guess.
Yeah.
No, Bill's an attractive gentleman, Justin.
It looks like Iggy has a lot of fans joining us today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guarantee you there's 90% of them you can't read.
I haven't seen any of my fans.
Well, you're on the internet. You're on the internet. You can read whatever you want.
Exactly. We're our fans. We got great fans. No, most definitely. And I want to say, so I want to go to another thing with you, Bob, on this before I pass it over to you, Kenny. So one thing, I first met you through a lot of events organized with the St. Louis Football Cardinals. And I've had the pleasure of having Lee Sharp on the show in the past. First thing I have to ask, what made you want to be a part of an organization, like to keep this memory of the Big Red alive?
So this all started about 10 years ago. The Rams were still here, and the writing was on the wall. If anybody was paying attention, they were going to move back to LA, right? They weren't good either. They hadn't been good for a long time. So I was disgruntled, and I got on social media and the internet and kind of looked up Jim Hart, Terry Metcalf, some of the players I grew up watching. And there's just and even to this day, there's not a lot of information on the football Cardinals online. Even an example I'll give you is probably 10 years ago, I went to NFL.com and I looked up Dan Deerdorf, and they have these player profiles, and it said he played for the Arizona Cardinals, so it kind of ticked me off. So I'm like, okay, I had free time, created some social media accounts, just uploaded some photos, things like that, and it just kind of took off. Players started joining, family members participate. I've met so many sons and daughters and grandkids, these players. Not to mention, I just had lunch with Jackie Smith and Johnny Rowland and some others this afternoon. They've become great friends. It really took off. So that's how it started. It started out kind of small, just as a little hobby, and just kind of grew into something I never thought it would.
That's great. That was that's like my childhood. I go all the way back to Charlie Johnson as the quarterback. But my dad worked at Charcoal House for many years, and Jim Hannafin used to come in there all the time. And so we'd always get tickets from him and go down there. And, as a kid, you didn't care. You're at Busch Stadium in 30-degree weather watching a football game. But I just fell in love with all those guys, Roger Worley and Larry Wilson, Johnny Rowland and Mel Gray and Jim Hart. I mean, even TVG when he was there. It's just a lot of memories, and I'm glad you brought that back.
Yeah, and they're just great people. They're great people, all of them.
Absolutely. When you talk about having those relationships with those former players, I think I was very grateful. I have the picture, but it's on a different, like, old cell phone I have. But it's a picture of me and Jim Hannafin. He actually lived at the same facility as my late grandma and my grandpa during the last years of his life. And, I'd go over every Sunday. I go over, it's a family tradition, see my grandparents and every Sunday. So I would see Jim every once in a while too, and we would just get to talking. And I'll never forget what he said about Lawrence Phillips after he passed away. This might be one of my favorite quotes I ever heard. It was He was a very gifted athlete. He was one of the most talented athletes, but he was dumb as a pile of rocks.
He told it like it was, right?
He told it like it was. It was straightforward. I remember they had a big party for him at the place when it was his 85th birthday. So just a couple years before he passed. But no, he was an all-around great guy. He talked about all his favorite sports memories, with the Cardinals and the Rams. So, it was great.
And he treated everybody like and a lot of these guys do this. They treat the fans like they've known him forever. They're not snobby or anything like that. At least I haven't seen that. Jackie Smith will walk into a bar and we'll be at the far corner of the bar, and it'll take him 10 minutes to get over there because everybody's shaking his hand. He knows everybody. So yeah, it's really been a great 10 years since I started this.
What does it mean to both? I want to ask both of you guys this. What does it mean to both of you guys, especially knowing that you grew up with the Big Red, you're fans of the Big Red, the fact that the Battlehawks recently honored them at one of their recent home games this season? What does that mean to you?
Well, I was there, so Brian Stahl, I think he's the VP of marketing or something like that. With the Battlehawks. We've been working on this for a few years, and he reached out to me about 6 weeks ago or so, and we picked a day, and they did a great job. I mean, we had about 20, probably 12 or 15 alumni who still live here in the area. It was kind of a challenge to get down there because some of them don't get around very well. So we had a couple of Ubers, pick us up and take us down there, and they got us back where we needed to go afterwards. But we got to go down the field. The team introduced each player that was on the field. They did a game ball presentation. Anthony Beck came out and shook everybody's hand, and the guys loved it. And we had a suite up. Actually, Joe Buck was in the suite next to us. So Johnny Rowland got to chat with him a little bit, and it was a great honor for the guys. I mean, they really enjoyed it and they appreciated it. We haven't had an NFL team here in a while, so anytime they get honored like that, whether it be the Battlehawks, I took them to the Lindenwood Lions football game last year, and Jackie Smith anthem, and they got to go on the field. I mean, they loved it. They love that kind of stuff. So I think they've felt like they were forgotten for a while. So.
Yeah. Hey, what about you, buddy?
Well, I just think the Battlehawks get it. Stully knows what he's doing. And it's just basically a way to shove it up the Rams' ass as well. That, hey, there's a team we're always going to remember. You can all leave and go where you want, but we're going to remember our football Cardinals. So, yeah, it's kind of like the Blues alumni. They don't get as much attention as the Blues alumni do, but a lot of those Cardinals still live in town. You go out and about, you see them. You go to card shows. There'll be one or two former Big Red players at a card show. So they're still loved in St. Louis, and the Battlehawks get it. Hey, we love our Cardinals here, and we're going to honor them.
I wholeheartedly agree. Gentlemen, we're going to take one quick break. We're going to stay on here, but I am going to talk about our proud sponsor of Roundabout Sports and of Interstate 70 Sports Media, that being our dear friends at Filthy Games Room. Okay, located at St. Charles off 370 at 3479 Newtown Boulevard. Okay, Filthy Games Room has the largest selection of vintage and modern video games in the St. Louis area, in the metropolitan area. It has over has at least a couple thousand games there as a frequent member. You can also join a part of their patron program where you can get special deals, including up to 10% off of all video game purchases. Everything ranges from the Magnavox Odyssey back in the 70s to, of course, PlayStation 5 today. They have Switch, Xbox, other Nintendo, everything you could think of. One of the nice features is their well-known arcade setup in the front of the store when you walk in. I will say it's been upgraded even just a little bit better than the picture that you're tuning into on the screen, but definitely is worth checking out. Ben Bizzle is the man in charge, but Scott, Isaac, Ari, all are fantastic as well. The store is open 12 to 8, Wednesday through Saturday. Once again, that is at 3479 Newtown Boulevard, St. Charles, Missouri. Filthy Games Room, buy, sell, and trade. Once again, folks, you are tuning in to Roundabout Sports. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Karp. We have Iggy Strode and Bob Underwood on. Bob, I'm going to ask you as Kenny's still with us, but I wanted to ask.
I'm going to come back late for a break like usual. So
no, you're good. Bob, I want to ask you first. So with the St. Louis Battlehawks, I know you said you didn't really catch much of a game this year. Here's the thing. Do you know if any football Cardinals are planning to go to the championship game, whether or not the Battlehawks do make the championship?
I don't know. A couple of us, Johnny Rowland and I, are going to the game Saturday, but we haven't talked about anything, as far as the championship game goes. I will. I'll go myself. My brother has season tickets. A lot of my friends have season tickets, so we're definitely going to go no matter who plays. I think, I think we have to, right? We can't if we're not there and the championship game is played with 10,000 fans. I don't think that's going to fare too well for our city.
So I do have to say, I got to ask this just because it's up here. Cole asks, why is Iggy not in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame? Bob needs to speak on this ASAP.
Yeah, he needs to be nominated. So you can go to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame website, and there's a nominee. There's an area where you can nominate someone for the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. You fill out a form. They go on a list, and we review those during our meetings. So
there you go, Cole. Get all your buddies to nominate. Not just one. Get about 60 people under nominating.
I was going to say, folks, if you want Iggy in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, you know what you got to do? You just have to go to STLshalloffame.com, and you will find the proper links to get you there for nomination. All right,
John. Do it. I'm not going to nominate myself, so you guys have to do it. I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't nominate myself either. I'll tell you that.
Although I basically reinvented producing in this industry, so 32 years in the business.
It's awesome. I mean,
do the research.
I was going to say it's well deserved. You've had a long. So I have to ask Kenny, what got you into wanting to do the broadcast, to be in the broadcasting field?
I had no inkling at all. I was actually working in Bermuda for 5 years. Came back, was bored. It put pretty good money away because I was making a lot of money in Bermuda and tax-free. So I saved quite a bit. But I got bored, so I went back to work at the Pasta House just to kill time. And we had a softball team. And our KSP, the All Sports Station 13A, had just started. And they were going around St. Louis playing charity games against various companies, and the Pasta House played them. I went out to have drinks afterwards with Bob Ramsey and Rob Fisher, who now works for the Memphis, does play-by or pre and post game for the Memphis Grizzlies. And we just started talking sports, and they said, "You know a lot about sports." I said, "Well, I played it and followed it my entire life." They told me about KASP. We just started a sports station. We need a producer. Do you want to produce? I said, I have no clue how to do that. They said, well, you'd be an intern and just, we just need topics to talk about. Maybe get us a guest here or there. That's pretty much it. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a try. So I went in, and first day, now granted, I'm an intern, I'm not getting paid. They said just get there about 9 o'clock. I got there like 9:02, and they had a sheet of paper. Back in those days, you didn't even know who was on the air. If your name was on the sheet, you got to be on the air. And it just said Kenny Strode, producer. And next to it, it said late. And that was Jay Randolph Jr. who put that on there because I was 2 minutes late. He goes, late. And I'd never met. I said, who the fuck is this guy? We ended up being best friends for like 30 years. So that's how it started. And I got lucky. I got, excuse me, I got connected to a guy at WFAN, Rob Scalaro, who I reached out to, and he said, I really like that somebody's going to work at being a producer. He sent me a bunch of phone numbers, faxed them, because that's all we had back then. And the first guest I got on was Greg Maddox from his house in Las Vegas. And it just kind of went from there. I just became a guy that had a golden Rolodex and made a bunch of contacts and been doing it for 32 years.
I was say, you recently celebrated your 32nd anniversary in radio.
Yeah, 1992. I started in May of 1992 at KSP. Worked with some of the greats. I mean, excuse me, I'm swallowing mosquitoes out here. This is terrible. Bob Ramsey was there. Kevin Slayton was there. Mike Claiborne was there. Rob Fisher was there. Jay Randolph Jr. was there. Brian McKenna was there. So we had a pretty good lineup that's been around forever.
That's a big who's who when it comes to the local broadcasting.
Yeah. So we had and guys that are still around. I think Kim Hibbs was there, and he went on to do some, I think, work for News Channel 5 for a while. Randy Hugh and some other guys. But yeah, it's a good stable of guys that started out sports radio in St. Louis.
So you do this for over 30 years. Have you ever thought to yourself, like, honestly, at what point you want to get to keep, or do you just say to yourself, one day at a time, I'm going to keep going. I love doing what I do.
Well, I have no choice. I have no money. I mean, I'm in radio for 32. There's no money in radio.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm collecting Social Security, which is great. I'm collecting my money and still working, getting paid. So it's like having 2 jobs, getting paid for 2 jobs, and only having 1. No, I love what I do. Even if I made more money in Social Security benefits, retirement benefits, I'd still work. I mean, I go in and I bullshit for 3 hours a day with 4 great guys, and I have so much fun. You know, we're a big, happy family. I love working at Hubbard. Thanks to them for 2 years ago bringing us over, getting us out of that shithole we were at. And just being at Hubbard is just tremendous. I mean, I get to see guys from KSHE and The Point and WL and the Arch and 101 ESPN every morning. All guys and girls that I've known for a long time, and I get to see them every morning, working for the best company in radio. So, yeah, even if I had money, I probably wouldn't quit because I enjoy it too much.
I would say, what's a good piece of advice for somebody who, because it is true where unless you're at a really high prestigious level, you're not making a whole lot of money in the field, like unless you play the cards right or you're at a certain position. I mean, what do you tell people that are up and coming in the field as far as realistic expectations go?
Go do something else. Seriously. But if you're serious about getting into it, just learn everything you can. Don't. I spoke at Brentwood High School not long ago to people that wanted to get into communications and journalism and broadcasting, and I said, don't go in there thinking you're going to be a on-air celebrity. Nobody just gets hired out of college, to be a host of a show. You got to learn everything. Learn how to produce. Learn how to run the board. Learn how to edit. Learn all of that stuff. And then you're a person that's in need, because well, hey, this guy can run the board if we need one, and he can fill in, and he can produce if we need it. He can go back and edit interviews if we need him to. Be a jack of all trades. Learn everything there is to know in radio. And then a lot of people started like that. I mean, Learn, who is one of my dear friends, KSHE, and now at The Point. I mean, she started as a promotions director, and now look at her. She's one of the most well-known personalities in St. Louis. So you're not going to start on the air. You got to start elsewhere, and then move up. But just learn everything you can. Don't just be a one-trick pony.
I mean, that's pretty fair enough. I know a lot of people that, you know, it is hard. You know, I didn't get a bachelor's degree. I'm going to say this. I've been in the journalism field since about 2013. And got a associate's in majoring in communications and journalism. But whereas a lot of people continued their education and got bachelor's degrees, I decided, I guess, hone the craft, if you will, find more journalism jobs, get more experience. I've had the pleasure of working with a bunch of places. But you know, it's a lot of hard work. I'll tell you that much. A lot of times I wonder, you know, I tell myself I have to keep going. I want to keep going. I love what I do, but I'm not going to sit here and act like every day is an easy day. You know?
No, I mean, it's, getting up at 5:30 in the morning is no picnic.
Right.
But I've been doing it long enough now that it's, it's no big deal. It's like I go to bed at 9:30 and I get 7 hours sleep. I'm fine. But you also have to get lucky and be at a good company. I've been with some good people. Working with Greg Marisek was great. But then I've worked for, I don't know if you can cuss on here or not, but
Yeah.
I've worked with some fucked up companies that didn't know what they were doing, didn't know how to treat employees, spent money unwisely, then couldn't pay their employees and never got a raise and made you do the job of 3 other people because they didn't want to hire another person to take the job they just got fired from. And then going to work is no fun. I mean, I've always had fun on TMA. It's just after the show that you had to worry about things. Hubbard don't have to worry about that. It's a great company. So you got to get lucky and be with a good company and be with a good bunch of people. And sometimes you have no say-so in that.
I agree. Bob, I want to kind of ask you, because I know that I mean, you're a former Navy veteran, so first off, I want to say thank you for your service. I know they just honored everybody for Memorial Day, and Cole, who's saying he's has signed off because of a late night. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for everybody who is tuning in. But Bob, I mean, what made you want to be a part of doing something like being a part of the Enshrinery Committee for the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, being in the field of sports, working with the football Cardinals? What was that drive for you?
As far as getting with the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
I was asked, basically, and I thought it was kind of neat. And, so part of, and you mentioned earlier, part of my kind of mission with the football Cardinals is to kind of preserve their history, right? So I thought it kind of went hand in hand with the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. One of the neatest things, we induct a lot of people over the years, and I look at the nominee list, and I have to be honest, I don't know who some of them are. After I got out of high school, I was in the Navy for 10 years, so I moved, and a lot of the athletes we put in were before my time. But one of the neatest things is just reading their bios and learning about them. We put in, for example, I think in early last year, we put in a basketball player from Madison High School named Don Freeman. And Don, I had never heard of him, but when you start learning about him, he was an all-state center at Madison. He went to the University of Illinois. His senior year, he averaged 27 points a game. And he was an All-American. He got, I think he played 8 or 9 years in the ABA. He was a 5-time All-Pro with the ABA, and then he finished his career with the Lakers. So it's things like that. And all of these inductees have stories like that. We all know about the Chris Prongers and players, the big name players like that we induct. But it's these lesser known players, high school coaches, Olympians, diver. We put swimmers and divers in from St. Louis that have participated in the Olympics. And to be honest, I didn't know much about it until you read about them. So that's one of the neatest things about being part of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I like that because, like, you know, take an instance for last year. You know, the whole when you mention about people that you just know or that you're learning about, you're reading about. Okay, so last year, I mean, yeah, you had your Chris Prongers, you had your Jason Mott, for example, but you also had you know, you had somebody like Curtis Francis from Worldwide Technology.
Francois, yeah.
You also had John Hewlett, who everybody knows the voice, but the thing of it is, everybody may not know the name. It's kind of like the late great Ernie Hayes or Jeremy Boyer, who's, you know, who I had the pleasure of interviewing a few weeks ago. That, you know, it's the behind the scenes or in the box guys that do so much, and it kind of just goes uncredited, if you will, or not as out there. So it creates that unique experience to get to learn more.
Well, I guarantee you, John Hewlett, half the people know him from being the Cardinals PA guy, and half the people know him from KC for 40 years.
Yeah.
And he's been the Cardinal PA guy since like the late 1980s or something. So everybody knows his voice, right? And
everybody knows John Hewitt's voice at this point. Like, that's the voice of Busch Stadium that you've heard. Like,
absolutely.
In there.
So the other thing I like about the Hall of Fame is, you know, you're not going to see 4 St. Louis Blues or 4 hockey players go in or 4 Cardinals go in. We try to limit it to one person per category. You know, we have auto racing, we have bowling, we had a nominee who was in judo, you know, that won some championships.
I thought you had a chess philanthropist, Rex Sinqueal, last year.
We put in Rex Sinqueal. I mean, this is the Chess Hall of Fame here, and he's donated a lot of money for local amateur sports as well. You know, so we look for stories like that. People who, you know, Rex Sinqueal is probably a billionaire, right? But there are a lot of people behind the scenes who are part of Matthews Dickey's Boys Club and volunteers, and they donate money and things like that people don't know about. But without them, some of these clubs don't exist, you know. So we try to find those kind of nominees and get them in. So it's very rewarding so far.
Now, is it a twice-a-year ceremony or is it a once-a-year ceremony?
We do 2 per year. We do have one, and usually we have one in the Metro East somewhere earlier in the year, and then the last couple have been at the Missouri Athletic Club, which they've been great. That's just such a great facility, and it really the ambiance, it just lends some credibility to the Hall of Fame. I don't know where I know the first one I went to was at the Hilton Frontenac, which was a nice facility. There's a hotel there, you know, where people out of town can stay there. It's not as nice as the MAC. I mean, that's just a great place. You know, they got a big bar downstairs, you know, that people can go to, and beforehand, the media comes out and does interviews. So it's really a neat facility.
Is anybody in professional wrestling in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame?
I'm sure there are. I've only been here for 2 years, but I do know Larry Matisek is in. I'm sure you guys, if you're wrestling fans,
yes.
Larry Matisek.
I'll be honest, I have the bias. I'm a big wrestling fan, but yeah, I just was wondering.
I would bet that Harley Race is in there.
You would think Harley Race. I would even say, you know, Luthez would probably be in there as well. But Harley Race, Larry Matisek, I mean, such huge components of St. Louis wrestling. And, you know, up until the day he died, Harley ran WLW out in his hometown, out in Troy, Missouri. So had the pleasure of meeting him just a few years ago. But I do love the diversity as far as the athletics and the fields go for the Sports Hall of Fame, because it really recognizes all different phases of what it is being a part of this city. At the end of the day, it's about being a part of St. Louis history.
Tony Van Zandt. I don't know if he played a college down, but he was a high school all-star, right? He was a Canton running back prospect. He's been in, I don't know what year he went in, but he's been in for several years. Just went into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame last year, I believe, also. I think he still lives in the area.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, before we close it out, I do want to thank you both so much for being on. But there is a story that is also came out today that I wanted to bring up, and I know you wanted to bring it up as well. And that is about that the criminal charges against golfer Scotty Scheffler have been dismissed. So the world's top golfer was arrested and handcuffed in Louisville during the PGA Championship. And the Jefferson County attorney, Michael Connell, asked the judge to drop the 4 charges against him. And Scheffler was arrested on May 17th. And he said he was charged with a felony for assaulting an officer on top of 3 misdemeanors. Iggy, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on the whole saga, and that now we're at the stage where the charges are being dropped?
Well, I said on the air probably 10 days ago that I heard from a friend of mine in Louisville who had, not in that police district, but had knew some of the people in there, and they said they will end up dropping the charges. You're going to find out that the cop wasn't wearing a body cam, so they have no footage from him, which is against the rules to not have your body cam on or your body cam on. And they were going to find no evidence. And then when his attorney came out and said, "We're taking this to court. We're not interested in a plea deal. They're either going to drop the charges, or we will take it to court." Well, when the evidence came out, the video came out, you saw there was nothing happened. The cop wasn't hanging on the car. Scotty wasn't speeding away and dragging the cop. He was going about a half a mile an hour. And you could tell it was just a miscommunication. One cop told him, "Yeah, Mr. Scheffler, go this way." He did. And the other cop went chasing after him and jumped in the window. You knew they couldn't go any further with charges. They would make fools of themselves. And, I've never met Scotty Scheffler, but any interview or people you talk to, the nicest guy you'll ever want to meet. He loves his family. He loves people. Couldn't be nicer. Scotty Scheffler is not going to tell a cop, "Get away from me, I'm going in here." So I was told they're going to drop the charges. They did drop the charges. And, they save face, because Louisville Police Department would look like total idiots if they'd have brought this to trial. So congratulations to Scotty. Well-deserved. Charges dropped.
Yeah. And, I do want to say first, Bob, before I hand it to you, was that I think one of the most embarrassing aspects of all of this was the viral video released of Scheffler in handcuffs being escorted by the officers from the scene, PGA Tour, and everything. It's definitely something that, is going to stick with him a long time from now.
Yeah, I saw something came out earlier today, too, that there was either video or audio of Scheffler in the back seat of the police car. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was, I don't know if the cop in the front seat had the body cam on, or I didn't see it. I just read about it. But Scheffler was explaining exactly what happened to the officer in the back seat. He didn't know the guy in the yellow jacket was a policeman. He just heard somebody yell at him. And the next thing, and he had his window down. And the next thing you know, this guy is reaching in and hitting Scheffler in the face. So he drove off. It happened so fast, and this wasn't like Sergio Garcia or Patrick Reed who was in the car, where you may not give them the benefit of the doubt. I agree with Kenny. I mean, Scheffler, haven't heard anything bad about the guy. Seems like the nicest guy in the world. So something didn't add up right off the bat.
Well, to show you how nice he is, he said, "I'm not pursuing civil charges. It's not fair for the city of Louisville to have to pay their tax money going to that." So he could sue them and make a lot of money. He said, "I'm not going to press civil charges. I'm not going to cost the people of Louisville their tax dollars." That's how nice of a guy he is. So, yeah, it was a farce. It really was. It was embarrassing. It may be the first time in the history of Louisville Police Department they arrested a guy, made him put on a orange jumpsuit for his mugshot, told him to take it off and go home. You're released. I mean, that is just stupid.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is something that they definitely botched up. And, to your point, if Scotty does say he did end up filing charges, it wouldn't be something that people would be like, oh, he shouldn't do that. Oh no, why would he do such a thing? It would be totally justifiable. But to your point, it showcases the character he has when he makes it clear he's not going to pursue such charges.
Yeah, I mean, he was embarrassed by the whole thing, but he knew he didn't do anything wrong. He just said it was a misunderstanding, and for the guy to go out and play as well as he did, he didn't win, but to play as well as he did, just shows you that, he can shake things off and try to not think about other things except for golf, but it's hard to do. But, I would say that the cop probably cost him a title. He probably would have won the PGA without all that shit in his head. So the cop probably cost him another major. So I'd sue him just for that.
Yeah, I was going to say now, Craig over here who joins us comments saying, quote, Scheffler was very classy about the whole thing. He could have been a clown about it, but good dude.
Hey, Craig's one of my fans, by the way. So I've got one friend listening or watching. Thanks.
Well,
he is a good dude, and he's good for the game of golf.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, first I want to say how much of a pleasure it has been having you guys on. And I look forward to when I get to have you guys on again. I look forward. It means the world to me to have you both on this evening. So
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And you can bring me on again when Bob puts me in the Hall of Fame.
Look, and like I said, folks, yeah, we are officially tonight on May 29th edition of Roundabout Sports. We are officially starting the Get Iggy in the Hall of Fame, in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. We are launching.
Talk to Johnny Marisek. He's got some pull.
I'm going to talk to Johnny Marisek. I'm going to definitely talk. Bob's going to wonder why his messages are going to be flooded by friends of yours, Iggy, wondering why he's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Well, I'll even come to this one. I said if I ever win the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, I wouldn't go because I think it's a farce. St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame is a good Hall of Fame. I'd go to that one.
Yeah, so I do have to ask that. What makes, and I know it involves the scope of it different because one's St. Louis more strictly and then the other's Missouri. But to you, Iggy, what makes the Missouri Hall of Fame less on a level than the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say Gerald Andrews, who ran that forever, is a good friend of mine. Does a great job. But to me, it's more of a money grab. They put so many people in because they know they're going to buy tables of 10. They're putting in, high school softball coaches. They're putting in softball teams from 1948 to 1952 from Kickapoo. They put as many people as they can because they know they're going to buy tables of 10 and spend money.
They have to.
So, they put Marty Prather, who I love Marty Prather. They put the sign guy in there because they know he's got a lot of friends. He bought 3 tables. So it's more of a money grab to me. There's a lot of people in there that don't deserve to be in there. It's kind of a sham Hall of Fame just to raise money and make a lot of money, which his organization should. But when you're just putting people, groups after groups after groups after 100 people in one sitting to fill up a room and make money, I think it's a farce.
Yeah. To be fair, they do have a brick and mortar building that they have to pay for and staff on salary.
Yeah, I get all that.
They got to raise it. They got to get that money.
They have enough fundraisers. My God, I think when they do they don't even give out sponsors exemptions into their golf tournament. They do the price cutter every year. They have 3 tournaments throughout the year and make people pay to try and get a sponsor exemption. And I think all that money goes to the Hall of Fame too. So I could be wrong, but it's
I will
pretty
say
much
this
money.
much though, for the sake of when it comes to Hall of Fames, I don't like when Hall of Fames have to have a set amount of inductees. I like it look, for all the problems Cooperstown has, and all the controversy surrounding them when it comes to their inductions and inductees for that matter, or which ones aren't in as much as some of the ones that are in. I like the fact that you can go a year where maybe 2 people are inducted, another year where you might have 4, and then you'll even have a year where no one gets inducted because they don't meet the threshold, as opposed to every year. And I'll do WWE Hall of Fame. I know, big professional wrestling fan here, but they have a set amount of inductees every year. And there's people in that Hall of Fame that, especially for the WWE Hall of Fame, aren't exactly worthy compared to some others. And so it creates that whole thing. Well, what makes it special being in this if everybody eventually can get in it,
Yeah, I get that. And the Baseball Hall of Fame, too. I mean, to leave it up to the writers. I mean, some of these writers shouldn't have a vote. It's pretty much a joke when you see the ballots they fill out. But the years they have nobody in is because there's really nobody worthy to go in, even though they can vote for 10. A lot of them still vote for 10. I mean, when you have people on the ballot that had a lifetime average of 210, and they go in because their 10 years is up, and they've been retired for 5 years, they can go in, and so they're automatic on the ballot. And a sports writer from that city votes for them. I mean, you waste one of your votes on a guy that hit 210 for a lifetime, but then a guy who falls 5 votes short didn't get votes from like 20 people. I mean, come on. So I think leaving it into the sports writers' hands, I think you just put a committee together of Hall of Famers, media people. You take it out of the hands of the sports writers, because a lot of them they're going to vote for their players every year. Whether they deserve it.
There was a guy in the Pro Football voter, Paul Zimmerman, Dr. Z. I'm sure, Iggy, you remember that. You remember him. He basically ran a campaign against Ken Stabler, saying that he would never get in the Hall of Fame as long as he was voting, and he didn't. I think Dr. Z died, and then Ken Stabler died, and they put Stabler
Yeah, so what happened was Dr. Z, I don't know who died first, but Dr. Z or Ken Stabler, but Ken Stabler died, and the very next year, once again, Iggy, you mentioned this type of thing earlier on in the show, with Uncle Neil, and how Ken Stabler died, and the very next year he goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and people were just outraged about it. So.
Yeah, I just think the way it should be voted on differently. I mean, I think the Hall of Fame the last couple of years have been kind of mediocre. It's no longer the Hall of Fame for great players, the Hall of Fame for pretty good players.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we're going to close it out this evening. I want to start by talking about, as we always do here on Roundabout Sports. First off, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on the official Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel. You can find us on Breaker, and you can find us on so many more places where podcasts are available. We are also at interstate70sports.media. We're on Facebook. We're on X. I've held out so long from still calling it Twitter, but I'm finally going to just start calling it X and get it the hell over with. But you can find Roundabout Sports. You can find Interstate 70 Sports Media on X and on Facebook. Roundabout Sports on Facebook. And before I do the final pieces for the closing, Iggy, where can folks find you on social and on the air?
You can hear me every morning with my TMA guys, 7 to 10. If you got a fairly new car, it's 1057 HD2. But you can download our app, TMA STL. We're on Spotify every morning, but you can go to YouTube too. Unfortunately, there's cameras in the studio, so people could cheek my outfits. Hey, you wore that shirt 3 days ago. Hey, you're late for a break. Blah blah blah. But you can watch us on YouTube every morning, 7 to 10. Just go to TMA STL on YouTube, and we're live every morning. You can catch me on Instagram, Kenny Strode, Twitter, Iggy Strode, Facebook, Kenny Strode. Yeah, that's about it. I'm all over the place. Just Google me.
Bob, what about you, buddy?
I mean, I have some personal social media accounts, but I don't have a lot of interesting things to say. So, but I do have, the Big Red. I have a private Big Red group on Facebook. Same with Football Cardinals. I have a Twitter account, Big Red _STL. We also have a blog, even though I've been too busy to write anything in several months. But the Big Red Zone, we've done a lot of Where Are They Nows with different players. We've ranked draft picks over the years. It's all St. Louis Football Cardinal related. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, and I think that's it.
By the way, I started the Where Are They Now.
You started?
Everybody's stolen that now. Sports Illustrated stole it after me, but I started with Frank Cusimano. I said, let's get a player on from way back in the day. We'll call it Where Are They Now. So something else I invented as a producer, Bob. If you want to put that in the resume when the
Well, that can definitely get
when the nominations start coming in.
We're gonna write that one down. So that's another thing. I'm writing it down right now for Iggy for the Hall of Fame, folks. All right, folks. You can also now, as we always do when we close the show, you can call the NAMI helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They are the largest grassroots mental health campaign in the nation dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle. The line is open 24/7. And of course, we also put at the end of their show the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And for that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years such as this year. Understand that you're never alone in this world out there. There is always somebody who is willing to help you, listen to you, be there for you. We all go through struggles every single day, and none of us are better than anybody else. And just because we struggle doesn't mean we have to go down the road alone. You are just a phone call, a text message, an email away. The help is always available. And you could also be the listening ears or the watchful eye for somebody who is in need. So there's a lot of love in this world, which makes sure to help spread it. So once again, I want to thank Kenny Strode and
Can I say something real quick? Since you brought all that up, thank you for that. Thank you for mentioning all of that. I'm also president of the Megan Meyer Foundation, which is an anti-bullying and teenage suicide prevention, and it's very important. Mental health is very important, and there's always somebody out there can talk to you. You don't know what anybody's going through that day, so try to be nice to somebody every day. You don't know what they're going through. If you can do that, you make the world a better place. I know, I kind of go back and forth with listeners on the show every morning and kind of take digs at them. It's all part of the show. But try to be nice to everybody every day. At least say you love them to your loved ones. Be nice to a stranger. It goes a long way. You know what they're going through, and we learned that with Grayson Murray on the PGA Tour last weekend. It never hurts to be nice to people. So there's always somebody you can reach out to. So thank you for mentioning all that. That's great.
No, it's a pleasure. We've done that. I've done that probably every show since I've started at this point. Few years ago. So folks, tune in next week. I know in a few weeks we'll have Tyler Cooley on the show. But tune in next week. Until then, he's Kenny Strode, he's Bob Underwood, and I'm Jeremy Karp. And always remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading.